Hi and welcome. Today I'm talking about Marple 12 New Stories by Agatha Christie, Naomi Alderman, Leigh Bardugo, Alyssa Lucy Foley, Elly Griffiths, Natalie Haynes, Kwok, McDermid, Karen M. McManus, Dreda Michelle, Kate Mosse, and Ruth Ware. This review is of an ARC or advanced reader copy that I got for NetGalley in return for an honest review. The blurb reads, a brand new collection of short stories featuring the Queen of Crime's legendary detective Jane Marple, penned by 12 remarkable best-selling and acclaimed authors. The collection of 12 original short stories, all featuring Jane Marple, will introduce the character to a whole new generation. Each author reimagines Agatha Christie's Marple through their own unique perspective while staying true to the hallmarks of a traditional mystery. Miss Marple was first introduced to readers in a story Christie wrote for the Royal magazine in 1927 and made her first appearance in a full-length novel in 1930's The Murder at the Vicarage. It has been 45 years since Agatha Christie's last Marple novel, Sleeping Murder, which was published posthumously in 1976, and this collection of ingenious new stories by 12 Christie devotees will be a timely reminder why Jane Marple remains the most famous fictional female detective of all time. Having read all of Agatha Christie's works last year, it is fair to say that I'm a fan of her work, and when I first heard about this, it was fair to say that I was bubbling with excitement. Having now read the stories, I wanted to share my thoughts and feelings with you. I want to start off by saying that all of these authors did an amazing job at continuing Christie's work and did not stray too far from her original work while still adding new things and pushing the boundaries of what is acceptable for a Christie story. Each story was filled with small gestures and nods to the original canon, which I did love, but sometimes felt that some things were nodded to too many times for one collection, and a little more coordination between the authors wouldn't have gone amiss. Most of these issues I had with the book were how it formed as a collection as opposed to each story in turn. Some works worked wonderfully as standalone pieces, whereas some I think could have been fleshed out into full standalone novels, still keeping in Christie's style. One thing I did think that was lacking, however, was a sense of unity in this collection. There was nothing particularly binding these tales together in a way I seem to recall there being in Christie's own short story collections. Sometimes it was just that the events happened sequentially, or one linked to another in some small way, but given the collaborative nature of this project and the freedom given to each writer in producing this work, this was not present in this book. I really appreciate they added racial diversity in the characters in this book, who were treated with far more respect than Christie treated her non-white characters, and I think it truly shows how great this style of cozy mystery can be if you let go of this false notion of societal homogeneity that persists in many people's minds. To this end, my favourite of the books was A Deadly Wedding Day by Dreda Mitchell, with the brilliant Miss Bella, a Caribbean version of Miss Marple, for want of a better brief summary, was a truly wonderful partnership. I now would love to read a whole series of Miss Bella's adventures on Saint Honoré. I can't imagine Christie ever writing something like that, but it fits so wonderfully in the world and existing canon that the idea that it shouldn't exist now seems completely absurd. Furthermore, despite being set in the 1960s, it read more like one of Christie's earlier works, and I think is more faithful to the public image of a Christie story than her own writing of that time. I would also like to talk about two other stories, but along the same theme. Miss Marple Takes Manhattan. Miss Marple Takes Manhattan by Alyssa and The Jade Empress by Jane Kwok are both wonderful mysteries, but I think Miss Marple was the wrong detective for them. A large part of Miss Marple's character comes from her only being able to travel to on other people's expenses, as she cannot afford to do so herself. This is why her trips in at Bertram's Hotel, A Caribbean Mystery, and Nemesis are so important to her. However, having her now also gone to Manhattan and Hong Kong, I think takes away from the importance she places on these trips. I think the more times Miss Marple is taken from small English villages to have experiences in other settings, the less her claims to know nothing of larger towns and cities and just be familiar with village life is incredible. Instead, I think it would have been better for Tommy and Tuppence to go to Manhattan and Poirot to go to Hong Kong. These detectives, to my mind at least, feel like they might naturally be in these places, ready for these mysteries to unfold in a way that Miss Marple feels a little out of sort. However, these stories are still a great read and live up to Christie's legacy. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed these stories and will be reading more books by these authors in the future. I recommend this book wholeheartedly to anyone who enjoys cozy mysteries and enjoys Agatha Christie's work.